All right, let's jump into my favorite part of this segment, video game news. All right,
Okay.
ladies, everyone can check out now. No, seriously, you do need to listen to this because there's some important principles that we need to discuss here. First of all, Green Ember, which is a series my kids love, that is right in their window with my 9-year-old right now. They have funded a video game on Kickstarter,
So it took the
and
book series and turned it into a video game, and it's still on Kickstarter. I'll throw the link into the chat. But they've already raised $215,000 for
which is
this video
amazing because
game.
that's a huge crossover. That's not a genre crossover. That's a big crossover to go from something that you're reading and enjoying to something you're interacting with and enjoying. And I think it's a good idea. Honestly, Green Ember already has a lock on the homeschool clean market. It's safe. People know they can read it and enjoy it, and their kids can read it and enjoy it. And now there's a video game for their kids that's clean and they can enjoy it. I see nothing but benefit from this. Uh,
It was controversial. He had to do a
yeah,
whole apologetic defending video games as a category because his core audience was very suspicious of video games as a category. So he had to give a reason for why we needed good video games. And I thought he gave a good defense. And video game development. So tying this back to AI, AI is dramatically reducing the cost of making video games,
hmm.
which means that more authors are going to have video game tie-in potential.
Yes.
Because it used to be you needed $1 million to $10 million to make a kind of low budget video game. It's kind of like making a movie. In fact, the highest budget video games have far bigger budgets than the highest budget movies. So you may think, oh, Marvel, the End Game, right? $300 million budget or $400 million budget. It's like, yeah, that's pretty big. But Grand Theft Auto had a $500 million budget,
And a
and
10-year development
and they spent 10
pipeline.
years building it. And Grand Theft Auto made way more money than Endgame did. So the most successful video games make far more money than the most successful films. And this is a kind of a secret. A lot of people don't realize this because the video games don't get the kind of press, right? The Grand Theft Auto doesn't get press about how much money it's making, and it's sold $1 billion,
Right.
billions of dollars worth of units. No, it gets press that it's causing people to be violent or whatever. Whereas no one has ever like Marvel's causing people to be violent.
Captain
Right? They
America's
get the
literally throwing
stories.
guys out of a plane.
Yeah, and part of it is the company that owns Marvel also owns ABC News, and
Yeah.
so when Marvel advertises on ABC News or goes on the ABC News night show, the actors from the Marvel show go on the Tonight Show. It's all in the same company, right? Disney
Yeah.
owns ABC, Disney owns Marvel, and so Marvel gets good press. It's amazing when you own the outlets. They also own ESPN and a bunch of other news outlets. So watching video games is important for authors to understand changes in the zeitgeist, but also now possible monetization strategies because
Yes.
you can now make a video game for $200,000. You can make a video game for even less than that, and soon you may be able to make a video game for maybe $20,000 or $30,000, which is suddenly in the realm of like, oh, I could raise that on Kickstarter.
Right.
My book raised 10,000. I might be able to get 30,000 for a video game.
And there's an important when we're talking about monetization for video games, that it's not just the initial price of the video game. So you have the initial price model, which is it's like 60, $70 for the game, and then if you want the premium release skin and play 2 days early, you pay $80, and then if you want the DLC that they're going to release with it, it's another $100. So they kind of lock you in on that. But then it's also important to remember that there are also what's called microtransactions in the game where you can buy skins, weapons, DLCs, which are extra content for the game. There's a tail to these video games, so they need to maintain their player base. Players need to keep playing so that they're still in the game when more iterations of the tail are releasing. So Destiny 2 is huge with this in that they're always releasing a new episode like every 3 months, and it comes with tons of extra content like skins, emotes, mounts, all this kinds of fun stuff. They're doing a Star Wars collaboration right now, and they're making tons of money off of it because suddenly you can go through the game playing as Darth Vader.
And these are ideas that you can steal for your book. If you look above me on the
Yes.
shelf, These are Brandon Sanderson special edition books that cost like $250. And the idea for his super fancy special edition books came from the video game world. Sanderson was looking at when a new video game comes out, you can buy the video game for $60, but for $100 you can get the special edition, and for $250 you can get the super special edition. It comes with a figurine or a mask, or a Pip-Boy, and a certain percentage of players want to spend $250 for the same game that their friends are spending $50 for.
How many times have you bought Skyrim?
2 or 3 times.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And I just bought Oblivion for the second time.
Oblivion for the second time. Dawn of War is releasing another one remastered, and that game has had 3 iterations that have come out. They're follow this kind of idea in monetizing your stuff. If it's popular enough, people will pay for it again.
I've bought Narnia 3 or 4 times. I think I've bought 2 book sets and several.
How many Lord of the Rings editions do you have?
I prefer not to disclose this information.
It's part of my house's foundation. I'm just saying. But
I need to leave a legacy, an inheritance to my children. So I need a copy for all of them.
But there is a wrong way to do this, and Borderlands 4 is making this mistake right now. They've announced an $80 price tag for their new game. And then when a gamer came up and said, why are we paying $80 for essentially the same thing that's not done yet? You're just going to release more stuff to go with it, and I know it's going to be buggy on release. Why am I paying $80 for this? And the guy who was running the game said back to him, if you were a real fan of Borderlands, then it wouldn't bother you. And that's just not the right response. I mean, the internet is blowing up about this. All the gamer news outlets are just really against this kind of. That's not the way to increase the price. You know what? You might have cost issues you need to address. You might need to increase the price of your product. This is not the way to do it.
I actually have an episode on this very thing. It's called "How to Use Scarcity and Ubiquity to Make Your Book Irresistible." And I open that episode with this ancient paradox. I think Aristotle or Socrates was the first one to bring up this paradox, but it's one philosophers have pondered for a long time, and it's the answer to this question: why are diamonds more expensive than water? You don't need diamonds.
Because diamond companies told us they were.
So putting De Beers and the whole market manipulation of the last century aside, you don't need diamonds. You can live your whole life without seeing a diamond, and you can live a perfectly happy life. And you can live your life surrounded by diamonds and die of dehydration, right? So you would think that water is more valuable than diamonds. So it becomes an interesting kind of thought experiment. And the reality is it has to do with supply and demand and rarity and value and wealth. And the fact that water has a lot of value if you're thirsty, but then when you're no longer thirsty, it doesn't have additional value. So the marginal value of water decreases pretty dramatically.
And this is a perceived value as well. It's not an absolute value.
Right. And so you can kind of launder half of economics through this question, which is really fascinating. But from an author's perspective, what's interesting is that you can make money both with ubiquity and with obscurity. Because the global market for water is actually more. People spend more money on water than they spend on diamonds. In fact, you in the last year have probably spent more money on water than you spend on diamonds, right? Our purchases of diamonds are kind of punctuated and infrequent, whereas we're constantly spending money on water here and there. And so the mistake that Borderlands is making is that they're getting rid of water and they're trying to only sell diamonds. And that's a mistake, because you can make money selling the extra special, bells and whistles version of the game, and you can sell a cheap digital copy. And you know what? Authors can do the exact same thing, right? Exactly. Don't make your ebook expensive. Traditional publishers are making a terrible mistake pricing their ebooks at the same price of their paper books, and they don't have a good offering in the ubiquity side of the equation. Right. But they're trying to constantly bring down the price of their paper books, making them cheaper and lamer, so they don't have a good offering in the diamond side of the equation. They're in the pit
killing
of
themselves
despair.
Here. Exactly.
This is my second Princess Bride reference today. So you
All
don't want
right.
to be in the middle. You don't want to be a little bit of
Yes.
ubiquitous and a little bit scarce. You want to be either scarce or ubiquitous.